Hey everybody, how's it going? My name is Will and welcome to Copper Jacket TV. So with everything that's going on right now at the federal level, with the reconciliation bill, the one big beautiful bill, the HPA and all the stuff that surrounds that, it can be kind of overwhelming. I mean, we're talking about 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. That's pretty much all that people are focusing on. And sometimes we can lose sight of the fact that people are still having their rights infringed on at the state level on a daily basis with new laws passed and things happening. Well, it's very rare that we actually get to talk about wins when it comes to these states, especially the state of California. But thankfully, we've got a win, and actually a pretty big win, as a matter of fact, that is going to affect the entire country. So today, we're going to talk about a major victory in the state of California that should have Newsom crying pretty hard. Let's get to it. Now, if you support the Second Amendment advocacy that we do here on this channel, one of the great ways to support us is simply by hitting that subscribe button. It's free, it only takes a second, but it really does help us out here quite a bit. It helps us spread our message to a broader audience, and it lets the powers that be know that you guys want to see content like this, which helps us stay on the platform for a little bit longer. Thumbs ups are always appreciated, and that little alarm bell will let you know when new videos come out as well. So again, if you are somebody who has subscribed, make sure you double check that you're still subscribed, because there's been some shenanigans going on lately. And with that being said, let's get to it. Okay, so let's go and talk about what's going on here. So we're talking about a win that was just handed down yesterday by a federal district court judge out of the Southern District of California named, and I know I'm going to butcher this, Kathy Ann Bensavenjo, and I'm really sorry if I got that wrong. But she gave us an amazing win in an FPC case called Hoffman v. Bonta. We've talked about this case multiple times on this channel, and that's because this case not only affects California, but also affects the entire country. Now, this case affects the entire country because this deals with California's ban on non-resident carry. This judge essentially said that what California was doing was unconstitutional. As a matter of fact, California's argument in this case was that people who don't live in California, they're not California residents, are actually not part of the people according to the Constitution. So California thinks if you're not a resident of their state, the Constitution doesn't apply to you. That was specifically one of their arguments. People who are not from California or do not live in California do not have the same constitutional rights as Californians. Obviously, the judge saw through that and said, no, what you're doing is unconstitutional, issued a summary judgment, putting a halt to California's ban on non-resident carry. Now, you might be thinking to yourself, I thought there was already a case that opened up non-resident carry in California, and you would be right. However, this is a totally different case that was decided in a totally different way and could have a completely different outcome. And that's because the first case only applied to the named plaintiffs and the members of the organizations that were plaintiffs in that case. So in order to apply for a non-resident carry permit in California, you had to be either a member of one of those organizations or you had to be one of the named plaintiffs. It didn't apply to the entire country. This case is a facial challenge. It basically strikes down California's law as unconstitutional, and it applies to everybody in the entire country. Now, don't click away now, because in just a few seconds, we're going to be talking about some shenanigans that are happening up at the California State Legislature that could end up making both of these cases moot. Now, in this case, the judge decided to do pretty much exactly what her sister court did in the CRPA v. LASD case, the case that applies to, the plaintiffs and its members. The judge basically told the two parties, the California Department of Justice and the plaintiffs, to get together to come up with a plan and a strategy to implement these new non-resident carry permits. And so that means it's back to the drawing board, it's back to the table where the plaintiffs can once again negotiate with the California Department of Justice on how these rules are supposed to be laid out, how people are supposed to get these new non-resident permits. And it is possible through negotiation that it could be easier than what we ended up with the CRPA v. LASD case. In that case, it was very similar to what Californians had to go through, but in some cases, it's actually worse, because in that case, people actually had to tell the state of California what county they planned on visiting primarily, like, this is where I'm going to be going. We have to tell them where we're going to be going. They had to apply in that county where they plan on spending majority of their time. And so there was quite a few hurdles for people who were non-California residents to be able to get their permit through that scheme. Hopefully, they can come up with something a little bit easier this time around. It's not guaranteed, but that would be the hope. Now, before we talk about what the California State Legislature is up to, we should point out that this is not optimal. It's not ideal. This is not exactly what we have been looking for. It's not reciprocity. It's not constitutional carry. It's simply a California-issued permit to non-residents. And again, while that is absolutely not the overall goal that we're trying to achieve here, hopefully there'll be something passed on the federal level that will impose some type of national reciprocity or national constitutional carry that will force California to recognize other states' permits. At least for now, people will be able to apply. Okay, so now let's go ahead and talk about the shenanigans up at the California State Legislature. So you guys have heard me talk about a bill on this channel multiple times. It's called AB 1078. The one main thing that we have focused on in that bill is the fact that it's going to limit Californians to 3 a month. You know, it used to be 1 a month. Ninth Circuit just overturned that law. They're trying to make it 3 a month. But that's only a portion of that bill. That bill is actually a very, very long bill. And one of the things that's talked about in that bill is non-resident carry. What California is trying to do is they are trying to use the legislature to effectively legalize non-resident carry permits in the state of California. So they're trying to create a path for non-residents to be able to carry, but they're trying to do it in the strictest way possible. So they want people, you know, outside of California to go through everything that Californians would go through. You'd have to go through a psychological exam. You'd have to pay for this and that and go through the live fire training. You would have to go through every possible step imaginable for a permit that's only good for a couple years. You'd only be able to carry, you know, what was listed on your license. Like, all of the same rules would apply if this passes. So if AB 1078 passes, not only would that include the 3 a month, but it would also include basically what the restrictions were in the CRPA v. LASD case. So they're trying to solidify that. If that passes, if it goes through, and if it gets signed by the governor, it makes both of these cases moot, and California now accepts non-resident carry permits, but under their full control without input from any of these plaintiffs. They're basically putting whatever rules in there they want. So again, this is the California legislature trying to take a step ahead of things, just like they're doing with the 3 a month law, right? They saw the writing on the wall. They knew the Ninth Circuit was going to strike that down because it's clearly unconstitutional. And so instead of 1, they used 1078 to make it 3. And so this bill does incorporate more than one thing. And so we need to watch this very closely. As of right now, it looks like it's going to pass. We'll see what happens as they update it, but the last amendment was made, I believe, on June 26th, so not that long ago. And I believe right now it's sitting back in the Public Safety Committee before it goes to the floor for another vote. So anyway, I wanted to let you know about that. I want to thank you all very much for watching. While it is a win, there's still a lot going on here, and it's not exactly the win that we wanted, but it's still a win in California. We got to take each win with a grain of salt and be happy for it and be happy with the hard work that it took to get there. So anyway, want to thank you all very much for watching. I really do appreciate it. If you haven't done so already, make sure you hit that subscribe button. You guys have a great day.